Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special day. It is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, whether you are biological mother, adopted, legally or not, stepmother, all of that. If you look at someone as your offspring, your child, someone you take care of, then happy Mother's Day to you. So I wasn't going to do a video today. I was actually going to take the day off, spend it with the wife and kids and all that. But I did for a couple of reasons. Number one, sorry about this right here. This was actually the best setup that I could come up with for the microphone, trying to keep it at least off frame. But this is what I got. I'm still working out a setup, but I think you'll agree that the sound is significantly better. So the reason that I do a video every single day as opposed to once a week, a couple of times a week, whatever, right? Is because I want to be your congressman. I want to go to Washington, D.C., but more importantly, I want to represent your interests here. I want to be your liaison between federal governments, and I want to show you that I am dedicated to the job. If I can at least every day get online for a little bit and say hello. And look, I get that there are people out there that have other engagements besides my situation is a little differently, but I'm trying to show you that dedication is important. I get online every day, 7:00. You can count on that. Here I am. Mother's Day is it's a painful day for me. I'm not going to lie. My mom passed away when I was in my early 20s. She was 50 years old. So I had an interesting childhood growing up. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because it's supposed to be a happy day. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you some pictures of my mom and the other important women in my life. Let me get the screen share here, and I'll show you. There, we'll start with that one. So I got some pictures of my mom as a kid. She really wasn't much of a picture taker. She did not like having her picture taken. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining us. She wasn't much of a picture taker. So I don't have a whole lot of pictures of my mom. But this is her when she was a kid. You can see the date stamp on this, 1957. So she was about 10 years old in this picture. And, very different time, right? Back then, her name was Lynda with a Y. That's just the way it was spelled. Jack, thanks for joining us. Say hello. There he is. There's a lot of women. That's my mom's mom. Her name is Audrey, and she was a trip. We'll get a little bit further. You'll be able to see when she was younger. She was a looker. She was actually on the Grand Ole Opry. I have that picture in the lineup too. I all these pictures here on the piano next to her. The one that is the yellow, kind of in the middle of the pictures here, the little fat baby right there, that's me. So that's my grandmother Audrey, my mom's mom. This here, it's really bad picture. Here, I'm gonna make it zoomed here. Okay, so from left to right, we have my grandmother, Audrey, my uncle, my mom's brother, Terry. Uh, Next one over is my aunt, my mom's sister, Sharon, and then Sharon and Terry. All the way to the right, that's their dad. My mom had a different dad than them. He is his name is Junior Leday, and he was not a good man. But anyway, this right here, this is me as a little kid. I just wanted to show you that I actually was cute at one point. That is me dressed up in my Sunday church outfit. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 3 or so in that picture. My son Donovan looked just almost exactly like that at that age, and so I was told on numerous occasions, don't bother taking the Pepsi challenge. He looks just like you. Moving on, this is my Aunt Gus. Now I'm going to talk about Aunt Gus for a minute. We'll get to the other uh, ladies in a moment, but this is my Aunt Gus. I actually have to bring up uh, my aunt's text message to me with her full name because it's uh it's a lot. Hold on, let me find it. Sorry. Okay, Augusta Sylvia Allen Moore. We always called her Aunt Gus, right? And this was in she lived in Mobile, Alabama. And see, Dave, I told you I was cute at one point. Thank you. Uh, Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. So, my Aunt Gus was, at least when I was a kid, was the epitome of the Southern belle, right? Very prim, very proper. This, again, Mobile, Alabama, deep South, very much a don't get me wrong. She was sassy. Like that whole family was incredibly sassy. That is my great aunt, actually. My grandmother, Audrey, her sister, Augusta, as we called her Gus, or Augusta, sorry. So she uh, she was always dressed. She always had her makeup absolutely perfect, big hair, because that was the thing back then. That was I want to say that was late 70s, because that looks like my grandfather Earl's house actually. So late 70s, very late, probably like 70. I want to say like probably maybe 79 or so. So just on the advent of the 80s hair, right? Oh yeah, yeah. But Paul said still beat you with the switch. Absolutely, absolutely. She uh, she would tolerate no lip at all. I, I will say this is Aunt Gus was probably one of the first outside the absolute immediate family positive female role models that I came across. She was a very strong woman, very independent. She didn't want anyone to take care of her ever. She wanted to do her own thing. She had, I forgot what she did for a living, but it's, I don't remember. She was a very interesting lady. So this is all the way to the left. This is my grandmother, Audrey, my mom's mom. And this is her when she was on the Grand Ole Opry. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the Grand Ole Opry, but it was a very popular television program where it was in Nashville, I think, where they like at the time it was like the almost like the country version of America's Got Talent now. And she was actually on the show. She could have been a famous singer. She had an amazing voice. I can tell you definitively that it did not pass to me. I cannot sing. I couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. I will not attempt it. So she was very, very, very good at singing. Yeah, it was. Right. Yeah, it used to be. So and as you can see, she was a very good looking woman. So hopefully I at least got a little bit of the look genes, if not the singing genes. Yeah, I don't have good digital pictures of this stuff. This was just we were flipping through the album and I'm like, ooh, I need that one. So this is my mom, probably in her mid 20s, maybe. I'm not sure where. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but this was probably when I was a very maybe probably even before I was born. This is her, older, much more tired. She was not amused. I will say this about oh, thank you, Chris. I appreciate you said you realize the Grand Ole Opry has been going on for 70 years and it is still on every Saturday night. I didn't know. Yeah, it's been around for a very long time. I didn't realize it was still going. Good for them. Yeah, my grandmother was on it. So yeah, point out that it did not pass to me at all. At all. I cannot sing. You know what, Paul? I'm glad you brought that up because you know whose hair I got? I got my mom's hair. My mom started going bald. I got her hair. My dad, when he passed away, right? Well, but shortly before he passed away, because he got bone cancer, but whatever. Before that, he had a thick head of hair. I didn't get the hair. I didn't get the hair from my dad's side. I got it from my mom, and she, yeah. Anyway, moving on. My mom was a very no nonsense kind of lady. Now, according to Liz, I get that look from time to time. I'm going to say rarely. She says more often than rarely. This is my Uncle Terry. This is Mother's Day, so I won't spend a lot of time on him. But I personally think he and Donovan look a lot alike. Not exactly spitting image, except in there's some pictures you can see it, but that's my mom's brother. This right here is my great grandmother. Her name was Nellie Ruth Knowles Allen. It actually goes even further than that. Let's see if I can get it. I had to get all the names from. Okay, Nellie Ruth Knowles Allen Ellen mom. Okay. When I was a kid, we called her Curly Top. That was the nickname that all the grandkids called her. I don't know where it came from. I mean, obviously the hair, but I don't know who started it or any of that. But that's who kind of shaped my image of great grandma as a kid. She was one of those ladies that if the parent told her it's going to be this way, she would do the exact opposite just to prove them wrong. Like if my mom told her, hey, he is not to have any candy, she would specifically go out to the and get candy. Yeah, Paul, that's a good point. He says enough names. Oh yeah. So that's one thing about the South, especially. They would actually take the last name. Now, not everywhere, but they would take the last name when they would get married, and they would adopt the last name as their middle name and keep their middle name. So, like my mom, right, or like for example, my wife Liz was Elizabeth Mouch, right? So when we got married, I thought her name would be Elizabeth Mouch Bergeron. And she's like, why would you think that? And I'm like, because that's the way it works. I don't know. So you can end up with a whole lot of names at the end. And yeah, so moving on. She was a trip. She was a trip. There's Terry again. There is probably one of the best pictures of my mom that are out there, Lynda. And she was a good mom. Let me in that. She was a good mom. She did the very best she could with what she had. I grew up very poor. We sometimes moved a lot. Yeah, Paul, I was trying to make her Southern. So But the one thing that she always tried to make sure was that I saw a woman that could take care of herself for the most part. And she actually spent a lot of time. One thing I've noticed, not always, but especially the ones that are involved, when you grow up, especially with a single mom, I think it I think it kind of makes you more empathetic and have a higher opinion of women insofar as the way you treat them. And I was brought up in a southern manner anyway, so manners are important, politeness, yes ma'am, no ma'am, stuff like that. There are instances, I will agree, where not having a father in the home can have some very, very negative side effects to it, and I've experienced those. But the one thing that I would say is that it tends to make a man more empathetic, for lack of a better term, towards females, and my mom instilled that. So this is my mom on the right. This is actually, I actually don't think that's my grandmother. I think that's my aunt. Is that Aunt Helen? It's one of them. I think the baby is my Aunt Sharon, I believe, which we're getting to in a moment. So this is for sure my mom as the little kid, and then my grandmother Audrey on the beach in Mobile, Alabama. I think it was right around the time of Hurricane Camille, which they had a bunch of hurricane parties out there, and there was actually an ocean, or a was it a wasn't a barge? It was a big, big, big ship that actually got washed way up onto the shore. And one of the hurricanes down there, there was a place called Dauphin Island, right? Oh, okay, that was right. Oh, yay, there she is. There's my aunt. That was my grandmother. Let's go back one. Okay, is that you in the picture then? That in the middle between you and Audrey? Or Mema, as here's the thing: if you come from the South, you call your grandmother Mema. That's just the way it is. There are no other names for it. You don't say grandma, you don't say any of that. It's Mema, and that's how I've always known her. Uh, yeah, okay, that is her. Okay, so my mom was the oldest of the three children. My mom, and then Sharon, and then Terry was the youngest. There was a number of years in between my mom and the other two. So, but the biggest gap obviously was between my mom and Terry. Uh, so yeah, this is Audrey and Lynda on the beach, Mema and mom, and then this is my aunt Sharon. This went on her cruise, and I think it's a really good, really, really good picture of her. She is probably the single best example of a strong Southern mother in my entire life. Yeah, there was an 8-year gap. Thank you, an 8-year gap between Lynda and Terry. It was a ways, or was that? I think wasn't that between you and her, or was that between her and Terry? But she was, yeah, she was married my whole life growing up, and their their relationship was, for me, the ideal relationship at the time. And she represented, because like my mom had issues, she did. So, and my dad wasn't in the home, right? So when I would go over to her house, I got to see how a husband and wife interact, and how dad acts towards his kids, and how a mom acts towards, she has three girls, my cousins, and how that whole family thing is supposed to go. I didn't really have that that much. But because they were so close, especially for a long time, we were constantly. I was constantly over there at her house, or the kids, her girls were constantly over at my house. Now, there's probably, let me see if this is the next one. This is her when she went to Colorado. Okay, yeah, 8 years. Sorry, 8 year difference between Sharon and my mom. So this is, not only is the background beautiful, I think it's a really good picture of her. I have a good Mardi Gras one coming up. That, yeah, I think that is that at the airport. I think, yeah, that's when I think that's when she came up here. And then, okay, I got to make sure I got the names right here. I know that's Rob in the middle. Okay, yeah, Cheryl. That's what I thought. Okay, so all the way to the left is my, is that my cousin Cheryl or my aunt Cheryl? I think she's my cousin, right? And then obviously my aunt on the right, and then my cousin Rob in the middle. I guess my cousin. Okay, so as you can tell, he did a good job, but there's a Photoshop here. The reason it's Photoshopped is because she was with actually someone, one of her friends, and I'm not gonna put them out there without permission. So this is her. She was at a Mardi Gras party, so we just did a little photo editing. Threw the mask in there to show you, yeah, it's Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is huge, cousin. See, I was right. Yeah. Mardi Gras is huge in southern Louisiana, and actually in Mobile too. Mobile is actually the only place outside of Louisiana that holds annual Mardi Gras parades, that celebrates it to the level, at least even close, that it's celebrated in Louisiana. It's pretty wild. So, yeah, Mardi Gras was always a really big thing down there. So I think that's it for the pictures. Let me see. Yep. So let's go back to here so that I can pull it down. There. So I didn't have my mom. My mom wasn't one of those let's go visit family type of people. So I didn't really have a lot of going to the extended family's house like some families do, where like you have the get together every year, whether it's a family reunion or the annual barbecue or whatever. My mom wasn't. She wasn't into that stuff. She was a very private person. She didn't really like a lot of people. So yeah, Paul, king cake. I love some king cake, but as I've posted before in the MX Cartoons channel, Louisiana has drive-through daiquiri shops, margarita stops, stuff like that. The focus looks a little off on this. Let me see if I can fix it. There we go. That's better. So when I was young, my biggest ideal of a mom, I'd say, other than my mom, of course, was my aunt, my mom's sister, Sharon. And she has three girls, and I saw the interaction there. And to me, at the time, their relationship was perfect, right? They had been high school sweethearts, married very young. Everybody told them, this'll never last, and they lasted for a very long time. And I can tell you definitively that it was not my aunt's fault that they split. We'll just leave it at that. Once my mom passed, because like I said, she passed in my 20s. My aunt became my mom. She was the next thing. She took over the kind of things that moms do, to wish you good luck. I was an adult by then, so it's not like I, had to move in with her or anything like that. But she was always there for me if I needed to talk to her, if I needed anything. Yeah, 32 years they were together. 32 years, and he worked in the oil field. And when I was a kid, I thought that he was just amazing and perfect. Let's just say that's not the case. Kids miss a lot of stuff, they miss a lot of things, but they they had a very, very positive effect, regardless of how everything ended up. They had a very positive effect on my interpretation and my understanding of what a real loving relationship is like, because that didn't exist between my mom and dad. I'm sure they loved each other at some point. I'm positive of that both of them have assured me of that. But they had problems. I will say that had it not been for my aunt and her husband, I don't know what kind of impression I would have, what kind of guidance I would have had as to what a loving, real relationship looks like. Because my mom was she was very leery for a long time about even bringing, like, dating, right? As a single mom, you have to be leery dating anyway. But my mom was very, like, over the top for many, many, many years. As a matter of fact, I can't remember my mom bringing anyone home, as it were, introducing me to anyone until I was at least 12 minimum, maybe even 13. Uh, that's just how she was. Uh, Her entire world revolved around me. My I had an older brother. His name was Paul. He passed away when I was 5 years old, so I don't have a lot of memories of him. Just very, very limited. So I think in my mom's mind, I was her everything, right? And I think that had it not been for some of the personal demons that she had, that she probably would have devoted everything to me. I have a letter somewhere where she wrote to my grandmother and was talking about how she had to finish up this letter and hurry up because she needed to make dinner, because I was going to be home from school soon, and she wanted to make sure that dinner was perfect and all of that. Uh, she wrote a lot. I wish that I still had some of the things that she wrote. She was very, very good at writing. She had a natural ability to just let the words flow onto the paper. Uh, she she had an amazing mind. She was very, very, very smart. Very smart. She wasn't well educated, but she was extremely intelligent. And she would uh, she would call out BS if she saw it, and I get that from her. I have no problem speaking up. She taught me that from a young age. If you see wrong, say something. So that went a long way towards shaping me into a person that believes that men and women are equal but different. And my aunt and her husband did wonders towards shaping what a loving relationship looked like. Uh, Had it not been for that, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. Thankfully, I had that. But my mom and my aunt had two different parenting styles, right? And my mom, she really never really talked bad about people behind their back, ever. It just, she's like, if I'm going to say something to somebody, it's going to be to their face. But the one thing that she used to complain about was the way that my aunt would raise her kids when they were very small. She used to tell me stories. Uh, when they were babies, my aunt would pick the stuff up and put it, like, at the top of the shelf or something, move it out of their reach. My mom, on the other hand, if I would touch it, she'd smack my hand or whatever. She had no problem with the discipline at all. She had no problem with the discipline. Flip flops, belts, switches, you name it. I'm not saying that my mom used to beat me all the time, because that wasn't like that. But if I got out of line, so what's the term? She'd give me that work, right? She absolutely would. But she used to say, See, that doesn't teach them anything. That doesn't teach them anything. Because then they're just going to get bigger, and then you got to put it up more higher, and then they're going to get bigger, and you got to just move it up high. Eventually, you're going to run out of room to put it up. So that's one of my fondest memories actually of her. Yeah. Oh yeah, Paul. Wooden spoons. She would utilize whatever was available. Actually, a common thing in the South, especially when I was a kid, was to go and choose your own switch. Right now, I don't know if it's just in the South because that's where I was at the time. And I moved up here when I was about 10 years old, so it was well before then. But what they would do is they tell you, okay, go get a switch because it's time. So you would have to go out there and you would have to look at the various branches and try to pick the one that wasn't too thick and wasn't too thin. Because if it was either of those, they'd make you go back and it'd be worse. Yeah, the Board of Education. That's right. And look, I'm going to say this. I don't think it's okay to beat your children. There's a difference between discipline and beating. There's a very, very big difference. I do not see a problem with discipline. There are children running around, and these children have grown up to adults where discipline was sorely needed in their lives. I knew where the line was. I knew what I could do and what I could not do. And if I went over that line, right, it was on. So I grew up very, very quickly. I was very tall for my age, broad shouldered. Somewhere I have a picture of when I was 13 and I'm, 6'1" or so. I was, I think, 5'11" in fourth grade. I grew up very quickly. So when I was 13 years old, I want to say 13, it was at least 12 before I turned 14 though. We were we lived at the Cool Spring Estates apartments, right on Cool Spring in Michigan City. And I forgot what actually had happened, but my girlfriend was over at the house at the time. And not like, it was the kid's girlfriend thing. But my mom had said something, and I wanted to look manly, right? I wanted to look like, how teenagers especially act out in front of their friends. Well, this was a case. I forgot. I wish I could remember what was said and what the circumstances were, but she told me to do something, and I was like, I'll get to it, right? And she's like, no, you're going to do it now. I believe this is the rest of it's kind of a blur because she's like, no, do it now. And I'm like, stop being a B word, right? And I realized as soon as, how like when you say something and you can almost see the words flying through the air and you're trying to get them back. You're like, no, no. That's what happened. And her eyes went just like as big as saucers and her mouth just opened. Now, bear in mind, I was not allowed to curse anyway at all, period, at all. So there was that, plus the fact that I had called her a name, which was also unacceptable. She had a big recliner and she launched herself out of her, and I took off running. I was, again, 13 years old, over 6 feet tall, and I was absolutely terrified of my mother. Now, my mom was tall too. Don't get me wrong. She was 5'11" or so. My aunt is taller than my mom, slightly under. She's very, very tall woman. I think she's 6 foot even, but very tall. You know how like when you get kind of bigger than your parents, you start to, I don't know if any of you ever experienced this, but you get that what if scenario in your mind. Like, if it came down to it, I think I could take her. Well, I couldn't, right? There's no way. And my mind just screamed red alert. And I took off running. I ran into my bedroom And I hid kind of like in the, I think I had a bunk bed at the time. Yeah, because the cats used to hang out on top of the bunk bed. And I like ducked down into the bunk bed and held the sheet up, and she came running after me. And it was a flip flop belt spoon spatula kind of day. And you know what? I was 17 years old before I ever cursed in front of my mother again. Discipline works. Now, the purpose of that story was I respected my mom enough to not curse around her, to not call her names, to any of that. I have seen some things on TV with like the Scared Straight program and these little kids that think they're grown. My personal belief is had you instituted discipline when they were younger, might not be much of an issue now. I know that's not always the answer, but yes, yeah, I'm glad you find that story amusing, Chris. I was absolutely terrified. I realized once I said it, and I don't even know what possessed me to say it, other than to try to look big, right? It just it comes out, and you can see the words going through the air, and no, oh no, oh no, it's too late, and it was. Um, I I was a I'd say I was a terror to my mom, especially in my later teen years. Uh, sneaking out of the house, skipping school. Uh, but that was much later, and there were a lot of things that happened before that point. But especially from 13, at that time when I decided to dip your toe in the water of insubordination. Uh, oh yeah, there you go, Chris. See, I'm sure we all have a story. He says I'll have to tell you about the day I thought I could say "f you" to Dad. Yeah, we all have that day, right? And my dad. I'm going to talk about my dad just very briefly. My dad wasn't around much, so I didn't really respect him. I didn't really know that much about him either. I knew the history. Now my uncle, I spent a lot of time around here him, but well, a lot being relative. When I lived down south, we did, but I didn't really spend much time around my dad. He was for a long time. He was a truck driver, so he was gone all the time. But when my mom and dad split up, he was one of those dads that believes that his contribution ends at birth. So there's that. But Chris says old man wasn't so old that day. Absolutely. Absolutely. We all have the moments. My mom was the one that I truly respected. And just like my mom, especially after that point, I never would have thought of speaking to my aunt, uh, my uncle, to any of the close family that I had in the way that I see some people speaking to their parents these days. It's like, oh my goodness, right? And my mom, I'm gonna tell you another story. So when I want to say 5, but I might have been 6 or 7, somewhere around in there. We had gone to Kmart was the big thing back then. So we had gone to Kmart, and I kept demanding candy or a toy or something, and my mom kept telling me no. So eventually she goes, oh yeah. Eventually she goes, I told you no. If you speak up again, I'm going to slap the taste out of your mouth. So my brilliant self, I throw myself down to my knees and hold my arms up in the air. And I'm like, don't beat me no more, mama. Please don't beat me no more. So she pulls me close, leans in, and goes, you cannot stay in this store forever. Eventually, we're going to leave. Now, I want you to think about what's going to happen once we leave. Keep yelling. See what happens. I stopped. Yeah, yeah, Paul, exactly. I'll give you a reason to cry. Yes. Uh, the big thing for me wasn't even that I'll give you a reason to cry. My big thing with my mom was I was very much a uh, why? Why? My mom, do this. Why? Because I said so. That was her answer. Because I said so. And I do believe that there are times for that. But as a kid, I resented it so much. So I swore that when I had children, that I would strive to explain my reasoning. Now, that has heard so much on me. Let me tell you. Hmm? Yeah, now Liz, she's very much of the because I said so and I'm your parent camp. Me, I knew that as a kid it was so incredibly frustrating for me to hear that. So I thought reasoning, right? Now that's fine once they're, late teens, maybe even early teens. But as a child, you can't explain everything. I know that. I know that now. My son has utilized that in masterful ways. Let me tell you, masterful ways. Yeah, Paul, I agree. Now I have learned. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. We all have room to improve, but uh, I do my best. But he has found incredible ways of using that to, okay, well, what if this, he'll break it down, right? Now, I will say that it actually has done wonders for his problem solving skills, right? Would you give me that? Yeah, Liz agrees. It's done wonders for his problem solving skills, but it makes getting him to listen there for a while. Now we don't have any problems, but for a while it made getting him to listen uh, kind of difficult. Hold on. Let me guess we're having some lag issues. Uh so yeah, we had thank you, Kevin. Happy Mother's Day to you as well. Appreciate it. So my my upbringing was very southern initially, and then when we moved up here, it kind of integrated into a little more northern ish because we moved in when I was about we moved up here about 10 years old. We moved in with my grandmother and my grandfather. Uh, so my grandmother, Wilma, was very, very traditional, very Christian, very these are the way things go, right? And her and my grandfather Robert were together for 30, 40 years, on a long, long time. So that's another relationship. Once we came up here, uh, I never like I never had to worry about seeing like anything because I know there are instances where even with older people, there's fights and yelling and stuff like that. It wasn't until my grandfather started getting dementia that that stuff happened. And I was an adult by then. Uh, so they had a very loving relationship. The funny thing though is she was one of those women, very, very, very smart woman. She was one of those women that up front, right? The image portrayed was the loving, obedient wife, right? But the way that she would go about things, like here's an example, right? She wanted to take a trip to Israel. And my grandfather at the outset said, not going to happen, right? We don't have the money. It's not going to happen. So what she did was she started actually cutting back on the amount of like the stuff that he liked, right? Like the type of coffee that he liked, the various, it's not like he splurged or anything, but the little stuff that he liked. Hey Kevin, again, I think you're doing like emojis and stuff, or it's not popping up. The little gifs and stuff, it doesn't show up when I'm doing the stream. Only words or like the little emojis work, but like gifs and stickers, they don't pop up on this program, unfortunately. So I can't see what you're putting, just so you know. Uh, and then when he's like, well, why don't we have this? She's like, well, remember, we're very tight on funds. We can't afford stuff like that. So let's just say she went to Israel more than once. Her favorite phrase was "Okay, Bob," because that was his name, Bob. Okay, Bob. It's the man's the head of the household, the woman is the back, and she. Yeah, yeah. So Liz said it in a very very correct manner. The man may be the head of the household, but the woman is the neck and can turn the head in the proper direction, right? So, uh, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, whether you're a biological mother or not, whether you're a mother of 100 children, one, whether if you believe you're the caregiver for someone, then happy Mother's Day to you. Uh, I think it's probably one of the easiest, recognizable best holidays we have, because and every day should be Mother's Day, right? We should thank our mom every day for all the stuff that they go through for us, because moms make a lot of sacrifices. A lot of people don't realize that. The Not just the ones that make dinner every night and have this done and have that done, but uh, the ones that devote their lives to making their children's lives better, right? Because look, I know personally there are moms out there that just because they had a baby don't make them a mom, right? Now, luckily, I've been very very fortunate with the women that I have been involved with. The mothers of my children have been positive role models for them. Uh, Liz, especially, has been a positive role model for my two and her son. That our three teenage boys, I think, they won't stop eating. I know, right? Ever. They will never stop. Ever. You might as well just open their mouth and just pour it in there. Yeah, yeah. 2 pounds of salmon gone. Poof. Uh, yeah, and just so everybody knows out there, I was gonna make something for her, but she is too much of a control freak in the kitchen, and yeah, or in general, and would not allow any of us to do that. We used to talk about making like breakfast in bed for her, and she's like, no, absolutely not, that would be horrifying. Yeah, her only request for Mother's Day is don't fight with each other, clean up and be nice. So thank you again everyone out there for joining me for the special Mother's Day event, and I hope it was at least a little bit entertaining. Tell your mom you love her. If they're not here anymore, then tell them the next best thing. Your grandmother, your aunt, whoever has helped you through the hard times. Wish them a happy Mother's Day. Day after tomorrow, we have a special guest, Donald Rainwater, coming on the show, and he's going to talk to us about his campaign running for governor as the Libertarian candidate, right, for governor. So, look, Libertarian. I don't know if there is a libertarian governor, I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, the last libertarian that ran was the guy from Survivor, Rupert. He ran.
As governor,
No,
Rupert, I
whatever
guess,
his
from
last
Survivor,
name.
ran.
He had a big beard.
Yeah, but I don't believe that there are any libertarian governors. I'm going to say that before this whole pandemic thing, I would have said not going to happen. Libertarian's not going to get elected as a governor for Indiana. After this, I guess his campaign has like skyrocketed. Lots and lots of people are getting in touch with him saying, okay, what would you have done differently? Right? If you were governor at the time, would you have done these stay at home orders? Would you have instituted the things that, Holcomb has done?
He wants to go to a restaurant.
Yeah, but yeah, again, oops on forgetting the mask, right? But look, is that oh, hold on. Okay, so Paul says Rex Bell and Carl Tackenhorst ran last cycle against Eric. Okay, I didn't know that. Look, I won't say I'm not a libertarian because I think all of us are a little libertarian at heart, but I've been a Republican pretty much my whole life.
I think it was the cycle before.
It was,
Rupert.
oh, the
So
cycle
it was
before
Rupert and then
that
John
was
Gregg.
Rupert, and then Liz says Rupert, then John Gregg, or she's not sure, but
No, John Gregg was John Gregg.
oh, she said John Gregg was. She doesn't know. Anyway,
I voted for Rupert. I didn't know.
no, she says she did vote for Rupert though. She did vote Libertarian, so I appreciate that, Paul. Thank you. So look, here's the point. Here's what I'm getting at: is before this whole thing, I would have said, yeah, probably not going to get elected in a very Republican state such as Indiana, right? But after this, a lot of people are saying, well, I'm listening, right? I'm listening. What would you have done differently? Liz just made a mess. She knocked something over. Oops, don't hit me. I know. So, but now, right? It could happen. People are rising up. They're saying, "Hey, I don't want that kind of thing to happen again. I don't want the type of government overreach or expansion or limitations that we've seen." So Tuesday, we're gonna have him on the show. We're gonna touch base with him. We're gonna see how much his campaign has grown from when he first announced, right? And then this thing that happened, what's changed, right? Because I see a lot of posts where people are like, yeah, before this, probably not, but I like what you're throwing down. I'm willing to listen. So join us on Tuesday. Email us here, talk@dionbergeron.com if you want specific questions asked. Also, feel free to join us live, and we're gonna see what's going on with done, what he sees differently. I'm getting a little lag. I don't know if you guys are. I don't know. So, thanks again, everyone, for joining me on this day. Hug your mom. Call your mom. Oh, yeah. So, just so you know, after this, my wife has already declared that I am going to watch the newest season.
I don't know if it's new, but
we're going to watch Hoarders. It's really, I guess this particular episode is supposed to be really, really, really. There's just something about this show that attracts me. I can't even articulate it. It's what the interesting thing about it though is the fact that it's a type of OCD, which normally when you think about OCD, it's that very orderly. This has to be. I do have a degree of OCD, but it's just a little. She she likes to make things just the tiniest bit crooked when she's mad at me. So thanks again. We will see everyone tomorrow at 7. And again, the reason why I do these every day is you should have a representative who believes that their time. Look, I'm going to be working pretty much 7 days a week if I become your congressman. There's no time off. There's no days off. So that's why I do these every night. Now, there are a couple of debates slash forums coming up on those nights. Obviously, I won't be able to do it. But what I'll try to do is I'll try to do a watch party, right? I'm not, the wife will anyway. I'll be utilizing this setup to do it. I'm going to try to get the lag straightened out because I do see there's some hitches and stuff here. I was hoping that we could eliminate this, but I don't know if it's the computer or the phone that I'm using for the camera or what. It was working good and then working well, I should say. So, all right, I'm out. Happy Mother's Day. God bless you, and God bless the USA.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2020. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.